Good day out there to all my listeners, and I'd like to welcome you to Is Your Way in Your Way podcast. And as many of you are aware, that's actually the name of my book, Is Your Way in Your Way, and it's a self-discovery journey for individuals that to help them restore yourself, learn from your experiences, and be your true self again. And these are also my new listeners, which I know I have some on here now. Is this podcast is all about what I would call mitigating, I would say mitigating you to get unstuck. For example, many of you want to be an author, you want to write a book, you want to change jobs, you want to move, you want to get out of a bad relationship or a relationship that you know that's not good for you. You want to make more money. It's just a gamut of things that you want to do, but you've not done it yet. I don't know whether you're not sick and tired of yet and want to make a move. I'm not certain. But we talk about topics related to personal development on here and business development. And also, it will enable you to do some self-reflection. And I always say that I always say, and I hope that something said on this podcast will give you like a aha moment and say, okay, that because of what was said here, I'm going to make it happen and I'm going to take action and take my first step. But who better to talk to us about that is my special guest, Stephanie Fee. And our title today is Enjoying the Process of Bringing Your Narrative to Life. And let me introduce her. Well, hello, Stephanie. How are you today?
Hello, I'm great. I'm happy to be here. And, now that the music started in your intro,
Yeah.
I'm all wrapped up. So
great. Yeah, I'm happy you're here too, because guess what? A lot of my listeners want to write a book. And I always hear about individuals that want to write a book. So we're going to talk about that as well. I'm going to read your bio a bit just so they can get to know you a little bit before we delve into what our conversation is going to be about today. Now, listener, Stephanie Fee is the visionary founder and developmental narrative artist behind the Wild Larynx, which is a platform dedicated to helping authors create wildly authentic and impactful stories. As a ghostwriter and a storyteller, Stephanie partners with impact-driven leaders and individuals, helping their books stand out in a world of over 4 million published works each year. That's a lot. With a focus on legacy and transformation, Stephanie's work empowers her clients to share their most profound experiences, crafting books and resonate deeply. She highlights stories that inspire real change through the Wild Larynx and her podcast. She collaborates with Joan of Arc Publishing, guiding authors on transformative journeys to bring their stories to life. Her mission is to use the power of human intelligence to create books that impact the reader and the world. I love that, to impact the reader and the world. That's phenomenal. Sounds like a service to me as well, when you want to impact not only the reader, but the world as well. So Stephanie, tell us a little bit about your backstory. And the reason that I'd like to know about that, because you talked about overcoming hardship as a child. And you also talked about you like exploring modalities that heal and strengthen the human condition. So I'm feeling that there was something that happened in your backstory that I would say that helped mold what you enjoy doing, perhaps. So tell us about that.
Yeah, there's a lot of my backstory that kind of unbeknownst to me led to this work that I'm doing now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't make sense of it all really until this work showed up in my life. So going back to childhood, the tough stuff was that I grew up in a family with a father who had layers of mental health issues, that there was, violence, abuse in the home. It was like walking on eggshells kind of
Mhm.
experience, as a kid.
Mhm.
Simultaneously, I had these loving people and influential people in my life, and my mother, and particularly my two grandmothers, right? So
Uh-huh.
my grandmothers, one of them, she taught me to write. So she would sit down when I was just a little tiny kid and teach me how to write in cursive, and,
Mhm.
led into thank you notes, and I really loved putting, pencil at that time,
Yeah.
as a little child, pencil to paper.
Mhm.
And my other grandma, she would tell me to read. She was an Icelandic woman, very intellectual. Just her family had come over from Iceland when she was a little girl. She got polio. She had like this range of experiences, and what helped her was learning. So she always
Mhm.
said, read, read, read. And she used to make us watch documentaries on, you know, on our heritage, the Viking heritage from her side, and just this avid learner. And she said, if you can read, you can write, and if you
Mhm.
do that, you can make it through and do anything in this life. So I thought about that always, and
Mhm.
I applied it in different ways, from, writing poetry and sending it, to my mom when I was a little kid, or writing stories at school, but also in real world applications, like getting my college degree. I was funding my own education and working several jobs and going to school full time. And I ran out of money, and I didn't have enough money for the last couple of credits.
Mhm.
So I actually love this story because I wrote the dean of the school to explain to him what I had learned, that I really wanted to graduate, and and wrote a very compassionate, emotion driven, but like
Yeah.
in a way that was appealing, right? In a way that you would want to hear someone and help them. And it
Mhm.
was a couple credits, two or three, and he let me graduate.
Oh,
And so
wow.
yeah, so it was like this continuous proof of, like, if I can communicate specifically in writing effectively, then I can truly be heard. And that was
Yeah.
the first way that I learned how to use my voice, which then, was kind of like, I would be like, I'm really good in writing, and why is there sort of friction in me when I go to, to narrate? And
Yeah.
so that started really unfolding as I confronted, the childhood experiences,
Yeah.
and winding all of that. And this is not I did not plan to do this work. It came to me. It was
Yeah.
a complete surprise. Uh,
Yeah.
and it's been a real thrill. So yeah,
Stephanie, something you said, even though you stated you knew you were a great writer, but it sounded like did you having doubts about something, knowing that you were a good writer. And I'm calling it maybe some limiting beliefs, maybe. And I'm curious, did you have anything? Was anything you felt, even though your grandmother helped, your other grandmother, she inspired you to read, and you enjoyed the writing, and as I remember, as a little girl, you knew your calling. Your calling was to help others step into courage and let circumstances of self-doubt hold them back. Um, how did you know your calling at such a young age?
I think I was born with a courage gene. I don't know where it came from, to be honest, because I'm far more sort of, I'll take risks and step into things even when I feel very uncomfortable and very scared. I have this need to act, and I think it comes from a place of, like, I want to know. I want to know. I want to know if I'll do great or if I'll fail. If I
Okay.
fail, what am I going to learn from it?
Okay.
There's a whole lot of things that I've had to confront along the way. Uh, that self-doubt has come in more for me after I put something out into the world than
Interesting.
before, which is kind of interesting,
That
right?
is very
Um, and I never thought that I, and still I don't think much about if I'm a talented writer or not. I
interesting.
think more about how much I care and
Hmm.
how deeply I invest
Okay.
in myself, in my clients, in the material, in the work. And
Uh-huh.
to me, when you care deeply, you can write from that place. And
Okay.
when you write from that place, people like feel something. If you
Hmm.
feel something, they'll feel something. So I go pretty deep. I'm a very emotional human being.
Uh-huh.
I'm easily moved to tears and laughter.
Mhm.
and uh, and so I use that a lot. And it used to be that would probably be an area where I used to have a lot of self-doubt because being, welling up with tears and showing
Yeah.
vulnerability or emotion, even if
Right.
like I'm happy, I get, if I'm touched, I get,
Yeah.
yeah, it used to be like, the comments of, oh, you're very emotional,
Yeah.
or, and I would take that in and really be like, I wish that I could be,
Wasn't that way.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wish that I
Mhm.
could sit there and be like those men in business that, I'm doing business with. I wish I could be like this. And
Right.
now that I embrace my emotional, like this is such a gift, and so I'm really invested in the emotion, in the feeling of everything that I do.
Yeah.
And to me, then that translates into value for others. And if it doesn't, it sure helps heal yourself.
Yeah.
You know,
Exactly. Yeah. And so it's interesting. You have courage. You're resilient, what I'm hearing. Um, and like you said, you'll write it, but after it's done, you like, then you start like, I put too much out there. And that to me is vulnerability and authenticity. And a lot of times I think the world needs now is more authenticity. They're looking for somebody that's real because the emotions that you have, never underestimate the emotions other people have. They just don't tell the story, you know? And I remember you saying that don't let good tragedy go to waste, right?
yeah.
So, and I'm curious to what are some ways to make the most of your existence by using that saying?
Yeah, I think that anything that comes up in life, and I mean anything, and this was, part of my own self development journey, learning, was
Mm-hmm.
embracing this idea that no matter what comes my way, I'm going to learn from it and figure out how to create something better because that thing happened,
Mm-hmm.
how to repurpose, which has been sort of my mission this year, is like repurposing everything that doesn't work out you
Mm.
know, into something very, very useful. It's like,
Yeah.
the lemons to lemonade thing. Well, you're taking, you're taking these experiences and you're making something better from them. And I
Right.
really think those are the people that I love to watch. I love to just see those people who've been through so much more than I have
Yes.
and go, wow, they are so inspiring, and they
Mm.
show up and they put, everything they got to the day they die into
Mm.
making something better out of a bad situation.
Right. So, would you mind sharing a story that inspires real change that you can think of?
Oh man, I mean, there are so many stories that I hear from
Mhm.
my clients directly, right? Because I get to
Mhm.
work these people who have done just what I said, probably with being mindful of sort of protecting,
Yes.
our
Sure.
privacy. Um, I have the first client who really just saw my gifts before
Yeah.
I did,
Yeah.
who brought her memoir to me and just asked. I had never written a memoir, but
Yeah.
she liked something that I created, and her story is one that is truly like amazing to me. She's gone through nearly every tragedy, type of tragedy you can go through, from, you know, disengaging with a certain religion
Mhm.
to, divorce and cancer.
Mhm.
She even went to jail,
Mhm.
and uh, several children, passing of several children.
Mhm.
And she is she's a light. Uh, she helps people connect their mind, body, and spirit, and
Mhm.
perform at a really high level. And she's just yeah, it's a bit difficult because it's hard because I can't say the
Sure.
whole story, but
Yeah, I
I,
understand.
I get to sit with those kinds of stories
Mhm.
um, and help people process them again
Yeah.
and again and again.
Yeah.
And
Again,
that's
that repeat it.
really healing for authors. Even if you're writing a business book,
Yes.
there's an opportunity to heal, to process, to
Mhm.
um, and then to share, which is that, oh my gosh, I'm sharing it with the world. And
Exactly. So,
that's when it gets really good. You know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that parlays with our title, enjoying the process of bringing your narrative to life.
Yeah.
And I think about my listeners who are stuck and because of limiting beliefs, they have those doubts. As you indicated later on, you will compare yourself. And that's what a lot of people do. Like, oh, that book was really great. I don't think I could write like that. Or I don't want to tell my story. I don't want to tell my story because I'm ashamed, and I don't want to put all my stuff out there for people to listen to. And that's something that I went through with my book. And it took me a while to write my book because I actually wanted to encourage individuals or empower women to start living their best life on their terms. That was just so important to me, for individuals not to transition and have regrets. you
Mhm.
know and we all go through trauma, drama. It's not anybody here that has not gone through something. So I like it when you say enjoying the process of bringing your narrative to life, and that to me is courage. And you've been blessed with that gift to help people, and that's why you talk about don't let your tragedy go to waste.
That's right. Because when you, so I would say, like, on a tactical level, how do we do this? How do we get up to the point of writing a book and sharing it with the world? Well, start really, really small. And I
Hmm.
mean that, you know, divulge something, decide what are you storing in your body? What are you sort of hiding? What are you, like, ashamed to talk about? What's there?
Yeah.
Identify that. And I always talk about this as from stored to storied. And
Mm.
choose a person who you trust, a person who you feel like doesn't judge you. And if you don't know somebody
Mhm.
like that, maybe a perfect stranger is the other extreme,
Exactly.
right?
That's
And
funny. Mhm.
just tell them,
Mhm.
I did this,
Yes.
and see what happens. In my experience, and the people that I work with, they come back to me and they say, amazing, this
Yeah.
person opened up to me and told me one of their stored
Mhm.
stories as
Mhm.
well. And
Mhm.
then we really connected. And that's authenticity. It doesn't mean that you have to share everything with everybody.
Yes.
Privacy is something, that's very sacred.
Exactly.
what it means is that you're not alone and you get to actually create deeper connections
Mhm.
when you choose what you want to share and you choose it and you do and you go deep, right? You don't just
Okay.
surface level. And those are those authentic connections. So that's like a very micro, and the joy that comes through with that connection, it doesn't matter what the naysayers say eventually,
Yeah.
because that connection is unbelievably like rejuvenating,
Mhm.
regenerating, and
Mhm.
so such a deep the quality of the relationships are there. So
Right.
you're always going to get people who judge and things like that, but as you build those connections, the disconnections, the judgment, it takes time, but it won't bother you as much.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
So I think that's how we practice in these small areas. And then imagine sharing that with, 100 people, a
Mhm.
1,000 people, 10,000 people,
Mhm.
and the type of contagion that creates of like me, I felt that too. I experienced something similar. I see my story in yours. Thank
Yes.
you for freeing me.
Exactly. Exactly. And as you mentioned before, Stephanie, you talked about healing.
Mhm.
And, like you indicated, people share their uttermost secrets, so to say,
Yeah.
with you. And I remember when I used to travel a lot and by flight, by plane, and I don't care where I was sitting, it was like people would gravitate to me and tell
Mhm.
me their whole life story. And I said, I guess they're telling me this because they don't know me and they think they'll never see me again. But that was very interesting because after some of them told me, they said, I feel so much better, after sharing this. And you're better than my therapist. I'm like, okay, well, that's really great. But like I say, everybody has a story. And when I think about my listeners who are stuck, there are things that they want to do. Maybe you just gave me a revelation. Maybe they want to write a book or they want to start a company. Maybe they should write journal. I want to write. Why do you want to do this? Well, what's stopping you? That's their innermost secret that they can journal, and that may be something to break the ice. I don't know, but you're right. Journaling is something that I like to do, and that's something that you said you did. You journaled a lot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I think there's different ways to journal as well. So,
Mhm.
for me, it's, I'm less of like a follow the prompt and make sure and fill out 3 pages. I've done like the artist way, if you know that, and it's beautiful, it's wonderful. But for me, sometimes journaling is a bunch of scribbles and random thoughts and, or just a paragraph about something that I need to get out. So I think even people they've told me they get stopped up even journaling, right?
Oh,
And so it's like, to set yourself free, I propose no rules on how you do something. I think that
mhm,
part
mhm.
of the block,
Yes,
there's the emotional block, but then there's these mental blocks of like, I think I have to do it in this way, otherwise I won't do it at all.
exactly. And
And
they don't.
just do it your way. I
That's
mean,
right.
you don't have to do it anyway, but your way.
But
And
your way,
and
right?
it's the same as far as I'm concerned with the book you write. Like,
Right. Is your way in your way. Exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Something else I found fascinating is you're a certified master health coach, nutrition coach, sleep, stress management, and recovery coach. Now, that's a lot. Now, is all of that inclusive of the work that you're doing being a ghostwriter?
yeah, well, I infuse it in different ways. So
Okay.
I check in with clients because I'm big on harnessing our human intelligence. So
Okay.
taking care of our physical bodies so that we can actually be open to,
Mm-hmm.
the messages that we get in our sleep. We conjure up all sorts of narratives, right? Our creativity is not for just me or
Right.
you. This is
Hmm.
a human innate type of intelligence. But how does it come through if we're stressed and tense? And, and I work with a lot of
Absolutely.
entrepreneurs and
Yeah.
executives and people who have a lot of success and a lot of busyness. They're very busy.
Hmm.
One thing that is super important and that, we build boundaries around is there's no stress in this book. The
Mm.
stress does not touch the book. And
Okay.
so you check in. How was the week? Where are you at, with are you taking care of yourself? How's your sleep? Those kinds of check-ins, because
Okay.
if I'm doing the ghostwriting, I blend my services depending on how much somebody wants to write. So if I'm doing all the writing, it doesn't matter. They still narrate to me. They still
Yeah.
create with me. They
Yeah.
are the author and
Right.
I am their collaborator. If there's stress, that energy, sorry, it gets into the process, it gets into the book. No way. You
Hmm.
want to have this thing that at the end of the day represents the best experience of your
Right.
life.
That's right. Your best self.
Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
force it and you're trying to like force it out, then it's going to sound that way.
Right. I'd like to hear your take on, um, you talked about authenticity and boldness, um, and storytelling helps people understand one another. And you said that you think where our history is today, that that's very relevant in today. And so I hear you say, what does it mean to you to live authentically? And why do you believe authenticity and boldness and storytelling helps understand one another in a more meaningful light?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do think that it's our primary need right now, aside from a uh, healthier, happier
Uh-huh.
existence, is this. It's all connected, right? Is this ability to take the time to listen and understand and be curious uh, and not attack people or
Right.
go off of um, there's just a lot of narrative war,
Yeah.
and
Uh-huh.
I'm all about narrative art. And so
Right.
um, what what I find is that, so the healing aspect, even, it's not only in the stories that may have happened to us as children or whatever. Sometimes it's that somebody wants to say, I really believe in this, or I think I have an opinion on this, right?
Okay.
The
Hmm.
other person is able to not yell at them for it,
Right. Exactly.
but
Hmm.
actually, and this is a challenge, and it has been for me. It's no longer such a challenge. I'm quite good at it, and very, I can neutralize the friction inside of me if somebody is, you know, has opposing beliefs or says
Yeah.
something that stirs me a bit. So just putting that out there, because it's not something that's just like, oh, I'm just gonna click this button and I'm gonna be really good at this.
Yeah.
It's practice, and if we can allow ourselves, each other, to practice and
Hmm.
even say like, hey, I'm practicing. Okay, I don't believe what you believe, but I'm interested in understanding you more. You
Yes.
tell me why.
Exactly.
And when we get to those,
Yeah.
we get to the heart of it, you see beyond, a religious affiliation or a political affiliation or a person
Hmm.
who, did something bad, right?
Yeah.
And it creates, again, that connective piece. And it doesn't mean you have to agree.
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that you have to join forces or agree. It means that you just learned a whole bunch of very helpful information that's going
Yeah.
to help you navigate the world with more compassion, more love, and unity.
Yeah. I like that stance you put on it. I always say we learn from differences. If everybody thought the same way, then you're not going to really learn anything. And it's just like, I always say, when you travel to different countries, and you learn the different cultures, you sometimes you appreciate, because a lot of times it's how they grew up and that's their culture. And you're right, all the rhetorical stuff that's going on now, going back and forth, this and that. Hey, it would be great if everybody just listened. Well, that's your perspective, but that's not mine, and move on. So I definitely believe you, and I'm all with you when we talk about authenticity and boldness in your story that help humans get more meaningful to them, and it's not always about me. What about them?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Exactly.
like that. That's good. That's good. Um, One other question is the ghostwriting. Um, I've heard, of ghostwriters, and do you find people are hesitant because you're a ghostwriter? Do you think they feel fake, because they didn't do it? Or what's the feeling out there for individuals and I understand, and I know there are a lot of famous people that
Yeah.
use ghostwriters. I know that. And you would, and they could whip out a book like this, like that, you know. So what is the vibe for individuals that hire you, or what's those beliefs, or they feel like they're fraud, or what's the feeling out there in regards to having ghostwriters?
Yeah, most of my clients come to me through referrals. So it's another author who says, who tells them from their own experience, which is so awesome for me, right? Because then the person's coming to me with an understanding. So if I can share with you, because I do think I use ghostwriter because it resonates with people. That's what they need, right? They are looking for a ghostwriter. Some people come and they really understand what that is. Maybe they've talked to someone again who've used either my services or somebody else,
Uh-huh.
and other people come thinking they don't know, they need to be filled in. So um, a ghostwriter is really a collaborator. It's your authorship collaborator.
Mm-hmm.
What a ghostwriter does is supports you to really find that deep, authentic narrative. With that, it is one of the most intimate relationships you'll ever form in your life,
Okay.
because you share, there's privacy agreements and stuff, right? So like you get to share
Yeah.
all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, this extreme amount of trust and connection form, and it's person who really asks you questions and allows you to share your story in whatever way. Like sometimes I say, just get it out,
Yeah. Okay.
and then we'll work on your authentic narrative, how you really want to say that, right? Maybe
Okay.
and
Mm-hmm.
they're narrating, so there's a lot of development work. So I do a development phase with authors where they
Mm-hmm.
come in and we work on their voice, their tone, the style, the structure of the book, the strategy for authorship, and really directing the flight path of the arrow for them, so they feel really calm when we move into and confident and excited when we move
Yeah.
into the manuscript.
Interesting.
And so
Uh-huh.
I really listen. I mean, I record sessions, and while people are walking around listening to a podcast, I might be walking around listening to one of the authors tell a story, right? Because I'm internalizing, like, how do
Mm-hmm.
they sound? Are they funny? Is that sarcasm? Is it, silly, uh, serious, all the things, right? So, and I have had people, to answer your question more directly, come and say, does this mean that like I'm less than as an author if I'm not doing all the writing? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it is authorship is creating something and owning that narrative. And I always tell them, like, you're the author, so don't be fooled. There's work.
Okay.
What
Mm-hmm.
I do is I free you up
Mm-hmm.
to narrate with me and then really lean into your biggest strengths, talents, passions. So, you're an entrepreneur, you're running a company. Well, this
Right.
gets to be the highlight. This is like one of the most fun things you get to do in the week without
Mm-hmm.
having to feel like you have to go write 5,000 words. Um,
Mm-hmm.
that's just not everyone, by the way,
Excuse me. Mm-hmm.
is some people will say, you know, that you have to write a book, right? And I always say, ask who's getting paid, right? If it's all people in the industry, but if it's a writing coach, they might be saying that because like they're writing coaches, right?
Exactly.
And I do writing coaches. I fluctuate between roles. Um,
Uh-huh.
but they might say, it's your book, you have to write it, da 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 da. Da.
Right.
I don't believe that. And I actually
Mhm.
think like sometimes when people are
Right.
just talking to me, the
Yeah.
best things that they wouldn't have caught end up like I go, wait, what's that? What's that part of the story? Oh, it's just a thing. Oh, can you tell me about it? And it ends up being like,
Okay.
whoa,
Okay.
right? So that's the kind of like exchange that happens. And then the writing, this is just a creative act
Mm-hmm.
together. And
Mm.
the writing, hey, honestly, leave it up to somebody who's better at it.
Okay.
It
Mm-hmm.
takes a full time. I'm every day. I'm
Uh-huh.
studying writing. I'm looking at the skills that I'm
Okay.
harnessing. I mean, it's a full-time job.
Yeah. I'm sure. I'm
So it's
sure.
like, if you can't make that your full-time job, there's no shame in that at all. Just make sure that the ghostwriter, if you hire one, interview 5 of them and
Mm.
make sure you feel so clear and
Yeah.
comfortable and,
Right.
and if you don't feel that with me, I say go forward and do this book with someone else.
Mhm.
I also make those choices, right? Well,
Okay.
we both
Okay.
have to really like each other. Anyway,
Okay.
so
I love that perspective, and I like the term that you use, collaborate. I remember when writing my book, I had somebody to help me. They
mhm,
they are known as a ghost writer. However, they didn't. I had to do the writing because I felt it was my story. And listening to you, I could have told her my story, and she could have done it. But I was insisting, like, no, can't nobody tell my story like I can tell it. But just the collaboration was great. And she would say, I don't know about that. I would write it and then she would edit it. And I'm like, I don't know about that. So, and she even admitted that it was tough for her, because as a ghostwriter, she was used to it. But now by me doing it, she said it was just a challenge for me. And I'm not going to lie about it. It just was. But and then when she found out I was a number 1 bestseller, she said, "Oh my gosh, that's great. That's great." So, so she actually said she learned from me, and of course I learned from her. So you're right about the collaboration, how intimate that is, because you're telling your story. And I think about, let me ask you this. Have you ever helped somebody with a book and turn into a movie?
I'm working on a couple of things now that they're interested in that. I think I always set so here's what I do with authors. Why did you come, right? And some people say, I want to turn this into a movie, right? They might say that. And I say, okay, tell me why, what are the reasons, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm backtracking here only because it's like a lot of people they think about authorship in terms of notoriety or what's it gonna be? What's it gonna be? Oh my god, it could be a movie, it could be streaming, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And it could be, but it
Mhm.
could be just a whole lot of other things. And
Yeah.
so I back up and we dig into really like there's got to be more. There's
Mhm.
got to be more for you
Than just that.
than that.
Right.
I always say it's not an act of celebrity or fame, not the way that I work. This
Yes.
is an act of like that comes again straight from your insides. And we
Exactly.
talk about all the possibilities. So it's an
Yes.
exploration. Oh my gosh, you don't know what can happen. You might be the best
Mhm.
speaker. You might have a course online. You might make a documentary. You
Yeah.
don't know. And
Exactly.
I mean, right now there's the thing in Congress yesterday with two authors, right? And they brought an issue that they're passionate about forward. And the book had given them like a lot of notoriety. I bet they didn't know that they were going to be doing that, right? So
Right.
if you explore, if you actually immerse yourself in the process, in the experience,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
healing, in the art, in the fun,
Right. Right.
that is more likely to turn out something that you don't know. It could attract bigger than your imagination.
That's right.
So
That's
that's
right.
how I work with people on that. I think it's really exciting to think about. Of course, it'd be so cool if such and
Yeah.
such pick this up, right? But the danger in that is that then if it doesn't happen, then we think we failed. And an author who publishes a book, I don't care how you publish it or whatever, this is not a failure. This is a success. To fill
Exactly.
one page is a success. How many people fill a book? I mean,
Wow.
so
Mm-hmm.
I just want them to feel like it doesn't matter where it goes. They got so much out of it
Mm-hmm.
that they would do it over and over again, and
Mm-hmm.
hopefully that attracts
Yeah.
amazing energy.
Wow, wow. That what you just stated could be a pivoting point for some of my listeners who wanted to write a book. Like you said, just write a page,
Yeah.
then you'll feel this and write another page. So anything you write is not a failure. So I like that. Now, one more question I have for you. By you understanding the challenges that my listeners are facing in regards to stuck and wanting to do this and wanting to do that, what suggestions would you leave them with?
Ooh, one small act of courage, if you can identify the tiniest thing, something you're a little bit scared to do, but you can act anyway.
Mhm.
Conditioning yourself to act anyway is a huge part of bridging the gaps of
Yeah,
writing a book.
yeah.
I don't believe in writer's block. I just think it's, you know, various things that get
Oh,
in our
wait.
yeah, exactly right, right. Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and that the thing that keeps me going every day, maybe this is helpful, is I think, what if I didn't? And at the end of my life, what if I
Right.
don't? I'm
Right.
always gonna wonder. And I
Yeah.
and I really truly every day I'm like, and I'm always like, oh, this could be recorded and I could die tomorrow. And I
Yes.
would be elated because
Yeah.
I failed, I took the risks, I said things, and I tried. I did it. I took
Right.
action. And
Excellent.
so, maybe that question will help you too. Like, what happens if I don't? Are you okay with not knowing? All right.
Mhm.
I'm not okay with a lot of that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Exactly.
And our capacity as humans is exposed more and more as we answer that question.
Mhm.
What if I do
Mhm.
this? Try
Mhm.
it. And then it's like you realize what you're capable of, and you might feel really small and really alone and
Yes.
filled with self-doubt. And I promise you that that will change if you do it anyway and go at 70-80%. Do not
Yes.
look at perfection.
Yes.
Perfection is the killer of
The thief of all.
creativity. of there's
Yeah.
there are music albums, there are books, there are things that people did
Mhm.
without perfection that they thought was just going to like go in an archive and nobody love it, and it
Exactly.
became the most fan favorite thing.
Yeah.
So we don't know what people are going to like. We don't.
Exactly.
We're not
Exactly.
like.
Right. So what I'm hearing, guys, is no regrets. Whatever you want to do, don't, like as Stephanie said, don't think I should have done this, but why didn't I do that? I did, when it's time, you just have this piece to say, I've done it. I tried it. It failed, but I picked it up and did something else. So I concur with that topic. That message right there is no regrets. Do it anyway. And the thing you said is you got to take small steps. You got to do something. You just don't sit up there and mull over it because it'll never get done.
Yeah. And it'll
Right.
be a torture chamber in your head too.
Exactly, exactly. So, Stephanie, this topic was great. I know that I had so many people on that want to be authors, and some of them are now thinking about, well, maybe I'll get a ghostwriter. And then some of them are like, but what about the elephant in the room? How much is that going to cost? All of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
this is another option for them. That, and as you indicate, we don't do nothing alone. It's not something they would have to do by themselves, and you attested to that. And for myself, I didn't do it by myself either, and if I didn't have her, it wouldn't have turned out like it did, because I had somebody to talk through it and talk with me about it. So again, I like to thank you, listeners. If you heard something that was of best interest for any of your friends, anybody that you know, please share it. And also know that this is going to be on all podcast platforms. And also, I want my listeners to be aware of that. I want to find out how you can get in touch with Stephanie. But I'd like for you to kind of figure out what your potential type as it relates to things you want to do. And this probably will help you determine why are you stuck and give you some answers on why you're not doing anything. Go on my website, CassandraCrawley.com, and take the potential quiz. And that will actually help you and let you know what type of potential do you have. And Stephanie, how can the listeners get in touch with you?
Yes, thewildlarynx.com. So that's the wild, WILD,
Mhm.
LARYNX. That's the voice box, by the way,
Uh,
.com. And also on Instagram, the wild larynx. And
okay.
that's the best way. You can go to the website and book a consultation. I'm
Mm,
booking now for 2025. So
great. Oh,
yeah,
that's
ready to
exciting.
start the new year.
Yeah, yeah, and guys, refer some of your friends that you know that will have an interest in this as well. So now, listeners, I'd like to say bye for now. God bless you, and thank you so much, Stephanie. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was great. Love talking to you.